I set up hidden cameras at my home and my jaw dropped to the floor when I saw what was doing my pregnant wife with my friend. It's a sunny day in California, and life is just about as picture-perfect as it can get. I'm living the dream with my wife Jane, who's 5 months pregnant with our first child. Our life together is a collection of perfect snapshots, each moment brighter than the last. But like a sudden storm brewing on a clear day, something starts to feel off. Jane begins to act peculiarly, constantly glued to her phone, laughing at messages only she could see and guarding her phone with an intensity that would put Fort Knox to shame. My gut churns, warning bells ringing in my head. Something's up, and I decide to take action. Paranoid or not, I feel the need to protect our happy home from whatever was lurking in the shadows. So I install hidden cameras around our home, unsure of what I would find. Fast forward a couple of weeks, Jane decides to have a girls' night with her best friend, Lisa. A night of wine, laughter, and chick flicks. Or so I thought. To my surprise, it wasn't Lisa who graced our doorstep that evening, but her boyfriend, Mark. My heart sank as I watched the footage, my jaw dropping at the sight of Jane and Mark, cozying up on our couch, their laughter echoing through our home, bouncing off the walls lined with our shared memories. I felt a cold wave of dread wash over me as the scene shifted to our bedroom. Our sanctuary, the very room we had dreamt of introducing to our unborn child, was now tainted with betrayal. I was sickened, a nauseating cocktail of anger, disbelief, and heartbreak bubbling within me. In a state of shock, I immediately call Lisa, who was just as taken aback as I was. We decide to confront them together, our shared pain and fury fueling us. As we enter our home, their laughter fills the air, a cruel mockery of our pain. I hold back Lisa, her fury threatening to explode. I calm her down, reminding her that Jane was pregnant, no matter how betrayed we felt. We ascend the stairs and step into our bedroom. The sight that greeted us was pure betrayal. Their faces morphed from surprise to guilt as they saw us standing there, a mirror to our heartbreak. Accusations flew, angry words filling the room. Mark was ejected from the house, a stunned Lisa trailing behind him, her heart shattered. Jane, drenched in tears and regret, begged for forgiveness. But I was done. I demanded a DNA test on our unborn child, needing to confirm my worst fears. Months later, our baby girl was born, her innocent eyes wide open, oblivious to the storm that had surrounded her birth. The DNA results confirmed my worst fears. I was not the father, Mark was, but he refused to have anything to do with Jane or his daughter. Feeling a strange blend of relief and sadness, I packed up my life and returned to my homeland, Wales. The salty sea air and comforting Welsh lilt slowly stitched up the wounds that betrayal had left behind. But the story doesn't end there. You see, I had a plan. I had been hurt, and I wanted Jane to understand the pain she had caused. I began to spread rumors about Mark, rumors that painted him as a deadbeat, a cheater, and a coward. Word got around, and soon Mark's reputation was in tatters. He lost friends, his job, and worst of all, the respect of his family. Jane, left alone with a child in a tarnished relationship, had to face the consequences of her actions. The moral of this tale? Always trust your gut. It's rarely wrong. Karma, as they say, has a funny way of turning the tables, and life always finds a way to serve up its own twisted version of justice. As I settled into my new life in Wales, I kept a distant eye on the life I left behind. Jane, left to face the harsh reality of her actions, was struggling. She was now a single mother with a child whose father wanted nothing to do with her. Mark, meanwhile, was facing the fallout of the rumors I had sown. He lost his job, his friends turned their backs on him, and his family lost all respect for him. It was harsh, but fair. He had played a part in shattering my life, and now he was reaping what he sowed. I kept my revenge a secret, carrying the satisfaction of my vengeance like a hidden trophy. Jane and Mark had betrayed me in the worst possible way, and though the pain still lingered, I found a sense of closure in knowing they were facing the consequences of their actions. It was a cold comfort, but a comfort nonetheless. Back in Wales, I found solace in the familiarity of my homeland. The smell of the salty sea, the comforting lilt of the Welsh language, and the warmth of my family began to heal the scars that betrayal had left behind. I started to rebuild my life, brick by brick, learning to trust again, to hope again. The echoes of my past life still haunted me, but they were gradually replaced by the laughter of my nieces and nephews, the comforting wisdom of my parents, and the camaraderie of my old friends. As I stood on the cliffs overlooking the sea, I realized that while my California dream had been shattered, a new dream was taking shape here in the rugged beauty of Wales. I had been given a second chance, an opportunity to start afresh. When I opened my wife's computer, I collapsed to my knees because I found a horrible photo proofs of her infidelity. It was the year 2014, and our journey had stretched over a solid 8 years, with 6 of those bound by the sacred vows of matrimony. Throughout her college years, I stood by her side, offering unwavering support as she pursued her dream of becoming a teacher. However, as fate would have it, her inaugural year in the profession proved to be a nightmare, as is often the case for educators. I can vividly recall the despair in her voice as she declared, "I never want to step foot in a classroom again." I couldn't bear to see her give up after investing 6 long years in her education, even if she had changed her major not once but twice. I urged her not to abandon her passion on account of a single rough patch. We had a massive fight, and in the heat of the moment, after years of supporting her, I lost my temper. "Fine, give up then, but we can't survive on one income," I snapped. Within a few months, she found a job that paid far less than her teaching career. I thought we were managing fine, until my dad passed away. Our relationship had always been complicated. My parents divorced when I was 12, and he was absent, often drowning his sorrows at the bar. But as his health deteriorated, he tried to reconnect with his family in his own peculiar way. Unfortunately, he was running out of time. They took my dad off life support and said he had only a few hours left. But somehow he held on for 10 long days. It was pure agony for me. I was a complete wreck. When he finally passed away, we discovered the harsh reality of his financial mess. He left us with a mountain of debt to tackle. Needless to say, I wasn't the most pleasant person to be around. I was grappling with the aftermath of my dad's mistakes, simultaneously angry at him, yet mourning the loss of my father. If any of you have experienced the pain of losing a loved one, you understand the immense difficulty it brings. One moment you're feeling all right, and the next, tears well up uncontrollably. Now let's fast forward a few years to the winter of 2017. A mutual friend, and the head honcho of our local NerdCon, spills the beans on Facebook that he's getting a divorce because his wife was unfaithful. Coincidentally, my ex happens to be in the area and pays him a visit, or so she claims, but I'm convinced this is when the affair began. I found it a bit peculiar that she stayed there for a whopping 5 hours, but being the trusting person I am, I bought her explanation that they were just having a chat. As the months rolled by and spring arrived, she grew increasingly chummy with him. It started to bother me, and I mustered the courage to voice my discomfort with their frequent conversations. My concerns were dismissed as mere paranoia, and let me tell you, I had every right to be suspicious, considering she went behind my back to have a little chat with an ex before we tied the knot. She claimed it was for closure. Yeah, right. Fast forward to the last weekend of April 2018, when I had a business trip scheduled in Vancouver, BC. She takes advantage of the fact that she's home alone. She always hated being by herself, often roping in her mother to keep her company when I was away on weekends. Now that's a red flag if I've ever seen one. And announces that she's going on a completely platonic date with this guy. I wasn't thrilled about it, knowing this guy's vulnerable state and how it could spell trouble. But she goes ahead with it anyway. At that time, we had this geolocating feature on our phones, supposedly to prevent texting while driving. It allowed us to check each other's GPS location to see if we were on our way home. Her idea, which definitely raised a red flag. Out of pure paranoia, I decide to check if she's actually home. She insists that she is, but the tracker tells a different story. She's still out with him. I confront her. letting her know that I'm well aware of her whereabouts and that it's getting late, so she should head home. Well, she didn't take it too well and decided to give me the silent treatment for the rest of the night. I pushed through the next day, trying to focus on work. But then she drops the bombshell. She's planning to go to his house again. I'm furious at this point and beg her not to go, telling her that this guy is vulnerable and I have a gut feeling he'll try to make a move on her. But she brushes off my concerns, dismisses me, and decides to turn off her GPS tracker. Sunday arrives, and as I'm on the flight back home, she suddenly starts acting all cutesy and sweet. Alarm bells are ringing loudly in my head. Something is definitely wrong. I arrive home late, having to hitch a ride because she didn't show up as planned. When I enter, I find her sprawled on the couch, fast asleep. The following week is filled with odd behavior, as she gaslights me into thinking I'm overly possessive and paranoid. It's not until the weekend that I discover she had only kissed him after a long, heartfelt conversation. She claims our marriage isn't worth saving. Desperate to salvage our relationship, I spend 2 days doing everything I can think of. The pick-me dance. But she's made up her mind. Then, she decides to take the dog for a walk, and in a moment of ultimate paranoia, I log into her tablet and open her email. And there, I find the heart-wrenching profession of love to this guy, along with her desire to leave me. Crushed beyond words, the room starts spinning and I completely lose control. Gasping for air, I dial her number, my voice trembling as I confront her with my newfound knowledge. She rushes home, and with a heavy heart, I pose the question, "Do you want to be with him?" Her response cuts like a knife. "I think I do." Anger consumes me, fueling my words as I declare my need for distance. Seeking solace, I seek refuge in a hotel room for the night. Meanwhile, she abandons our home, seeking comfort in his arms. Left with the responsibility of our loyal companion, I hastily check out and return to care for our beloved pup. Despite the shattered fragments of our relationship, I gather every wedding photo, every cherished memory, and lay them bare on the kitchen table, a bittersweet tableau of our past 11 years together. Consumed by anger, I unleashed my fury, shattering the wedding photo against the wall. I dialed her number, demanding she retrieve her belongings, assuring her they would be waiting on the porch. Thankfully, my brother, my savior, lent a helping hand as we piled up her stuff. Admittedly, I could have handled the situation with more grace. They say hindsight is 20/20, but the painful truth remained. The woman I loved, the one I had sacrificed for and devoted myself to, had found solace in the arms of another man. Without wasting a moment, she swiftly moves in with him, making quick work of changing her cell phone plan from mine to his. And to add insult to injury, this despicable character has the audacity to attend the convention where I served as staff, proudly declaring their love and issuing an ultimatum: support them or face expulsion. Naturally, I find myself barred from the very event I once held dear. The pain cuts deeper as I realize that not only have I lost my wife, but I've also lost the support of the tribe I believed would stand by my side. As the convention unfolds 4 weeks later, she flaunts her newfound happiness, bombarding social media with images of her entangled with him. While she jets off on extravagant trips, showcasing her newfound love, I rely on the dwindling support of my family and a handful of loyal friends to orchestrate the arduous task of moving out and leaving behind the remnants of our shared life before the lease expires. Every time I asked for help, she had an excuse ready. And, to add insult to injury, she started a new job the very week she cheated on me, right at the same place where I was the IT help desk lead. That summer took its toll on me. I shed a ton of weight, smoked a pack a day, and barely had an appetite. While I spent my birthday in solitude, she paraded her new man before her family, who quickly abandoned me and embraced him with open arms. I foolishly fell into the trap of trying to win her back, pleading with her multiple times during those long summer days to break free from that toxic relationship and find her own path. It was then she had the audacity to tell me how she fell out of love with me after my dad passed away. She claimed I was too consumed with grief and neglected her needs. During one of our final conversations, she even tried to make a move on me, but I shut it down. Filled with anger, I snapped at her, telling her that this ain't some sappy romance movie like The Notebook, and she needed to grow the hell up. As a final blow, she decided to take the other man on the trip we had planned together to Ireland and England, the very places my ancestors hailed from in the early 1900s. Thankfully, I had blocked her and anyone connected to her on social media, so I didn't have to witness the whole damn thing plastered all over the internet. Shortly thereafter, I took care of the divorce paperwork myself, bringing an end to it. Since then, I haven't had a face-to-face conversation with her. We exchanged a couple of emails to settle some matters, but apart from that, she relies on her parents as intermediaries if she needs anything. I maintain strict no contact with her and anyone connected to her. Unfortunately, that meant losing several friends who chose to take her side or prioritize their involvement in the convention over our friendship. However, in the midst of this chaotic ordeal, I discovered an exceptional therapist. With his guidance, I came to understand that the whole mess was far from normal, and I was just doing my best in an extremely messed up situation, as he put it. Through therapy sessions and recounting the events, I realized that there was nothing I could have done to prevent it. Her excuses held no ground and couldn't justify her betrayal. In the end, I discovered that I possessed strong coping skills and did everything within my power given the circumstances. I made a conscious decision to improve myself and let go of all the torment and misery that had consumed me. I have my good days and bad. Sometimes I catch wind of her life and it stings a little, but it no longer knocks me down. Turns out she tied the knot with that guy this summer, right after he finally divorced his ex. Took him 3 long years, but he was already living with another woman. Word on the street is she's lost a ton of weight, looks worn out, and is under his thumb. The hardest part for me is not having our dog anymore. She ended up with custody in the divorce, and I miss that furry companion dearly. She even used the dog as a ploy to manipulate and mess with my head, but I had to put an end to that game. It was a tough call, but necessary for my own well-being. Despite the hardships of 2018, there were silver linings. I welcomed a beloved puppy into my life, finding solace in her presence. Not having children turned out to be a blessing, as my ex-wife's aversion to motherhood clashed with my deep desire to become a father. Now, pushing 40 and navigating life during the pandemic, I remain hopeful for the future. Leaving behind the wreckage of our marriage, I reconnected with my family, saving money and pursuing fulfilling hobbies. Gradually, I learned to love myself again, realizing that I was a supportive and kind husband, not the monster she portrayed. As D-Day plus 3 years approaches, I reflect on my journey with newfound strength. I never bought into the whole karma concept. Too many times I've witnessed people getting away with their wrongdoings without facing any repercussions. So, I stopped waiting for karma to strike my ex, because it wasn't doing me any good mentally or emotionally. But then, fate had its own plans. I spotted her in the midst of a bustling brewfest, and I almost didn't recognize her. She looked utterly dreadful. It seems that whatever she's going through with the sorry excuse for a human being she left me for and married is taking a toll on her. She's emaciated, resembling those gym enthusiasts who are so obsessed with their fitness that they appear drained and shriveled. A stark contrast from the woman she once was. At just 33, she easily looks a decade older. Instinctively, I averted my gaze and avoided any eye contact. According to my brother, she caught sight of both of us standing in line for a beer and promptly made a swift exit. Later, while reconnecting with old friends who stood by me through it all, I received some interesting tidbits of information. It turns out that my ex and her husband, the infamous AP, are facing financial hardships. The convention they arrogantly rule with an iron fist and booted me and anyone who dared oppose them is now under investigation by the IRS. Not only that, but the people around them are finally seeing their true colors and realizing what toxic a-holes they truly are. As for my reaction to hearing about her sorry state or the downward spiral of her life, she brought this upon herself.